Folks, I'm a graduate of Jack Yates High School, Magnet School of Communications in Houston, Texas. And I chose to go there when I was 14 years old. And I wrote columns for our school paper. So I've had people responding to things that I have said that they disagree with since I was 17 years old. I go to Texas A&M. I remember one day I came home and my brother said, "Man, what you do?" I said, "What you talking about?" Our answering machine was filled with all these vile messages from Aggies who were mad because of a column that I wrote in the school paper, The Battalion, chastising and lambasting the Texas Aggie band for playing Dixie at halftime. When I interned and worked at the Bryan College Station Eagle, I wrote opinion pieces. Didn't make some folks happy. I remember when I worked at the Houston Defender in 1990, and I wrote an editorial criticizing the United Negro College Fund's campaign commercials, and William Gray, former congressman, my alpha brother. Matter of fact, I think he was in Congress. He was in Congress, but he used to, well, maybe he had the UNCF. I can't remember. Anyway, writes a letter mad with what I wrote. For 10 years, I served as a nationally syndicated columnist for Creator Syndicate. And so I've had pieces run all across the world. So don't think for a second that I'm not used to people taking exception to something that I say or that I write. Today on The Breakfast Club, Charlamagne took exception to a segment we did last week where two panelists said that he provides misinformation. And so he made a whole bunch of comments, some personal attacks. And let me be real clear. I don't give a damn what you say about my weight. I don't give a damn what you say about my neck. I don't give a damn what you say about my hairline. I don't give a damn about none of that. And the reason I don't give a damn about none of that, because none of that shit matters. See, I am speaking to and addressing and confronting larger issues at play that have a profound and significant impact on our community. And see, I'm absolutely unbothered if someone says, "Oh, you're a Democrat shield, and you doing this, that, and the other for the Democrats." No, because see, I'm real clear. I stand up for black people. I stand up for black people on the local level, the state level, the national level, international level. I fight on behalf of black people. I've worked in black-owned media, not black-targeted media. iHeartRadio owns The Breakfast Club. That's black-targeted. That's not black-owned. So I've worked on black-owned media since 1990. That's 35 years. I'll be 57 on Friday. That's 35 years. See, when I was at CNN, I was with TV One. I was with WVON Radio in Chicago. And then later during the Tom Joyner Morning Show. So when you ride for black people, then you are clear in what your focus, your mission, and your agenda is. And you see, for me, my mission is I stand on truth and facts. Max Robinson, the first black network news anchor, ABC, was dying of AIDS In 1988, he was addressing some Howard University students and alumni. And he said to them, never ever lose your integrity or your credibility, because in the end, that's all you've got. Chris Metzler, God rest his soul. Chris was a black Republican, black conservative. And Chris and I used to always laugh and talk because a lot of these Republicans, well, man, Chris, I see you go on Roland's show, and I don't understand. When you go on Roland's show, he don't yell at you. He don't interrupt you. Chris said, because I don't lie like y'all. He said, you fools come on Roland's show lying, and I ain't stupid. He said, if I come on Roland's show and I start lying, he gonna jack me up too. Why? Because I operate in facts. I believe that what our people, that is our people, meaning really all people, what our people need are relevant, factual, credible sources of information that they can trust explicitly. In fact, that's interesting. I was going through a few text messages. Between Charlamagne and I over the years. September 1st, 2024. I always go hard for the truth and facts, whether white or black. And this is why I tell black folks to pick credible black-owned media. I simply can't sacrifice the truth for anyone. I've been in journalism since I was 14. Nothing has changed in 41 years. I also said, I'm not hard on us, I'm hard on facts. And what I don't like is when people spew things that are not factual, and then others take it to believe it is true. That has been the case for my entire career. I also said, I don't argue online. As a journalist, I provide facts. You see, we all can have opinions. But even when the context of a debate and one is offering their opinion, it needs to be a factual opinion. It needs to be one that's rooted in truth. Because the general public does not necessarily distinguish between who's a journalist and who's not. Who's a journalist and who's a DJ. Who's a journalist, who's a shock jock. Who's a journalist and who's a radio host. Who's a journalist, who's a podcaster. Who's a journalist and who has a digital show. Because see, the public just sees all media. But there are clear distinctions in terms of our roles and responsibilities. And I thought about that when I saw, because I landed in Bermuda, and all these text messages and whatever, and people hit me up, said, oh, did you see it? No, I didn't. I was literally in the air. And then as folks would hit me up, and I got phone calls from people, and I was quite amused by it all, because it's not like it's new to anyone where I stand on facts. In fact, as I was thinking about it, and people were like, man, you should say this, you should respond this, you should respond this, you should respond this. I said, and I thought about it, no, I'm not going to do any of that. Then there were people who were like, oh, he should come on your show. You should go on his show. I thought about, because I was back and forth, and, there was stuff. Oh, he begs to come on the Breakfast Club, which is not true. Sent 2 texts this year, one last year, one 2023. And when I go to New York, I actually text about 10 people. 10 shows. So it could be the Breakfast Club, it could be Ebro, it could be Sway, it could be John Fusil Gang, it could be people at Sirius XM. So let's just be real clear, y'all. I do media all over. I don't beg anybody's show to come on. I was on Ricky Smiley's show and Dee Dee's show last week. So ain't no begging. I literally tell people, hey, I'm coming to town. So there you go. Just like people do the same thing to me. So as I was sitting here watching people say what should happen and y'all should do this and that, I actually thought about this very issue of when I went on the Breakfast Club 3 years ago. Listen. Look, I got Republicans who don't want to come on my show because I don't let them lie. And so and that's why I get upset when I watch a lot of these shows and folks lie. So, for instance, when sorry-ass Bill Maher allowed that woman the other day to lie on Kamala Harris, and then he didn't correct her when she talked about, she sent all these men and women to prison for weed, and later, Breakfast Club too, and Breakfast Club. And then Bill Maher sitting there with his pothead self, don't say a word. I don't let folk lie, because when someone lies, if they're listening to this show and a lie is told and you say nothing, for me, the public goes, well, Angela and Envy and Charlamagne didn't say nothing, so what they said must have been true. No.
Because Van Jones was on the panel. He didn't say nothing.
Well, no. What he did was, he didn't correct him. And I was like, Van should have said, wait a minute. What you just said is a flat-out lie. You don't let lies stand. And so that's why, and I'll tell him, I'll let you finish. But what you're not going to do is sit here and lie. And I just sit there and just nod and let you continue. Because the public needs to have enough faith in us that we have enough information. And the moment you lie, we say, wait a minute, stop. That's not true. Or you got to prove that. You're not just going to throw something out there. And so that's why this microphone, cameras are important, because we have to have so much trust in it and have care with it that we refuse to let anybody lie in our face, because the audience goes, well, that must be true. So they now run with that lie, and now it's harder to bring it back in as opposed to say, stop. What you just said is simply incorrect.
Well, I need you to give us some facts now, because I know people will see this and they'll be like, well, Kamala Harris did lock up a whole bunch of people for weed in California.
Well, first of all, I actually brought on a brother who went through the whole record. The number of prosecutions in San Francisco declined from the previous DA when she became DA. 2, they created alternative programs for individuals who had who were arrested for weed. Second of all, the number of people in California went to prison, those numbers went down. So again, when people say, well, just what you said, she locked a whole lot of people up. How many? No, how many?
Yeah, they can't know any number.
No. But you just said she locked a lot of people. How many?
Oh, I didn't say that. I was quoting what people said.
No. You quoted folks who did not have accurate information. So even that's
why I asked you.
No, here's the deal. So even when we say, some people say, I don't even reference lies. Because what I'm now doing is I'm now weaponizing the lie.
Right.
So even
the corrected, you don't reference it?
Huh?
Even the corrected, you don't reference it?
No. It's not a question of corrected. What I'm not going to do is, some people say she locked up a lot of people. First of all, let's break that statement down. What does it even mean? What's a lot? Okay, if she locked up 5,000, well, how many were locked up before her? Was it 10,000? So 10,000 locked up before her, and then she locked up 5,000. That's a decrease.
Correct.
So, again, that has to be stated. Second of all, does the Attorney General lock people up? Yes. Or is it local DAs? See, so again, I don't just go, some people. I hate that phrase.
Gotcha.
Because even stating that, it has to be rooted in fact. And that's why I don't simply do that any time. I force people to have to defend a statement and say, no, you need to provide evidence to back that up. And so what if somebody says, well, 5,000 was too many? Okay, but if it was 10,000 and she came in and changed the policy and then it was cut in half, do you not give credit to cutting it in half?
Correct.
Where I come from, you actually do.
It's called context. And the problem that we have, especially with too many of these damn gossip blogs and these people who are aggregators, who all they do is repeat somebody else right, they don't have any context. They provide no nuance. They provide no factual information. They don't ask the second question too often. As Kathy Hughes said, they ain't deeper than mustard on a hot dog.
See, I hope y'all understood what I was laying out there. It's not enough to say, well, I'm just asking questions. But if your question is rooted in wrong information, then you've actually weaponized the wrong information. And now it goes out to the public. Let me, I want people to understand. I really need you to understand this. When you have a microphone, and it could be this microphone I'm wearing, it could be anything. It could be written word, it could be your social media, it could be anything. There are people who are going to entrust in you, even if they never even talk to you, that he gonna give me the right information. So if you, because they are thinking, well, wait a minute, you bigger, you more knowledgeable, you know more things than I do, so therefore, I'm trusting that what you are saying to me is correct. So what then happens is, you say something, or a guest says something that's not correct, and then it's not corrected, so therefore the person listening goes, that must be right. So they then take what you just said or heard and go repeat it to somebody else. And they say, well, I heard it on the Breakfast Club. I heard it on Roland Unfiltered. I heard it on Native Land Pod. I heard it on Contraband Camp. Y'all see how that happens? So they are assigning credibility to you based upon what they heard, which is why those of us sitting behind the mic or the keyboard must be mindful of what comes into our minds, process, comes out of our mouth, and then spoken into the microphone, because once it hits that microphone, you can no longer control it. You can't control it. So for me, when I hit it, I want you to have clarity. I don't want to come back to say, I should have explained it better. And again, I just want people to understand. See, this is not, man, you attacking them. No, that's not what it is. It is an absolute pursuit of truth, which is how I define myself as a journalist. Because I have too much respect for this microphone, and I have too much respect for the audience, to be given something that's half correct. And again, I wasn't going to do this, but I'm just going to give y'all an example. Today, again, in that 20-minute discussion that Charlamagne had, and again, this is not tearing down. I'm just stating what happens when a basic statement is made, and maybe you're not thinking about what you're saying that's actually wrong. Charlamagne was quoting Bishop William Barber, talking about the big ugly bill. And he said when the bill passed, quote, Democrats failed to expand the tax credits. I want y'all to hear what I just said. Charlamagne said Democrats failed to expand the tax credits. Here's the problem. They didn't have the power. Republicans control the House. They control whether a bill comes to the floor. They had the votes. Republicans control the Senate. Now, some of y'all watching right now, see, I'm going to explain to y'all politics. Some of y'all watching right now are going, well, I don't understand. They needed 8 Democrats to break the filibuster. Yes, because the big ugly bill was passed through a process called reconciliation. Uh-oh. The reconciliation process does not require 60 votes. The reconciliation process only requires a simple majority. Do y'all know how the Affordable Care Act got passed? Through reconciliation. Yeah. See, these are the arcane things in politics that I don't expect the average person to know. My job is to explain to the people these arcane things and make it simple for them. So there are some bills that pass the Senate by unanimous consent, meaning I move they pass it by unanimous consent. Okay, empty chamber. It's a post office, whatever. So remember that Charlie Kirk, day? That's how that thing was passed. People like, well, Democrats didn't vote on it. Weren't even in the chamber. Should have been one objecting. Rand Paul did that when it came to the June. See, y'all got to remember, Juneteenth. Senator Rand Paul, the reason Juneteenth didn't become federal law when Trump was there the first time is because Senator Rand Paul objected to it being passed by unanimous consent. So you can have 1 or 2 senators in the entire chamber, and they could pass a bill by unanimous consent and don't require all 100 showing up. That's one way you pass a bill. Another way you pass a bill is the reconciliation process, which has some rules there, what you can and cannot do. And the Senate parliamentarian has the rule on it. That's literally what the big ugly bill, how it was passed, by simple majority. The continuing resolution, that required 60 votes. Those are details. Those are nuances. But I still believe they have to be explained. So it's incorrect for Charlamagne to say, quote, Democrats failed to expand the tax credits. How could they fail to expand it when they didn't have the power? Republicans did. So should the statement have actually said the GOP cut the subsidies? The GOP cut the tax credits. See, y'all missed that. Y'all missed that. I want to walk y'all through very basic understanding language. If the phrase is Democrats failed to expand the tax credits, that means that you are assigning blame for the tax credits expiring on the Democrats because they failed to expand the tax credits. But if the language is the GOP cut the tax credits, that's the appropriate language. Why? Because they control the House, control the Senate, control the White House. So just that one line right there completely changes the context of the conversation. Which is why words matter, why language matters, and why we can't be reckless or lazy with how we construct words, because you can change the context of a discussion by changing the words. And so what my desire is very simple. My desire is for everybody in Black America. My desire is those of us on radio, on television, on digital, to make it our mission to never be ambiguous with our people. When I was on the Tom Jordan Morning Show, I forgot where it could have been. It could have been, I don't know where it was. And his mother came up to me. I need y'all to hear this. This mother came up to me. And she said, Mr. Martin, it's good to meet you. My baby will not let me drop her off at school until she finishes your segment. I said, really? The young girl was standing right there. I said, really? She says, yes. Her mama said, if we get to school and you not done, she make me go around the block to finish your segment. I said, oh my God, I appreciate that. So on Monday, I go on the air. I said, Tom, man, I met this mother and her 12-year-old daughter. I told the story. Tom said he loved it. Y'all got an email. The email said, Mr. Martin, thanks for the shout out, but I'm 11. I love that. I said the young girl was 12, but she was actually 11. She corrected me on her age. That's called a fact. Now, it's not necessarily consequential in terms of the grand scheme of things, but it's still a fact. But here's why that story is so important, because it ain't about the age. It's about the fact that this young girl, it was 11 years old, is in the car with her mama. And this 11-year-old girl was so intently focused on the segment that I had and the people that I was interviewing, that this young girl would not get out of the car until I was done. Y'all, that 11-year-old girl right now is in her early 20s. That 11-year-old girl who was listening to the Tom Joyner Morning Show segment, that little young girl was learning, was listening. And so I could not be careless with what I was saying. I could not fully explain and provide the context of what I was saying, because I wasn't just talking to her mama. I wasn't just talking to her dad. I was talking to her and more like her. So I will never apologize for being fixated on truth. Because what we must understand is that unbeknownst to us, there is a young girl, there's a young boy, there's somebody who's 7, 8, 9, 12, 15, 18, 25, 32, 40, 47, 54, 65, 70, 80, 90, who's watching and listening. And what we have to say to them and how we say it matters. It's not for the cheap laugh. It's not to mock. But when you understand how precious information is, it was Kathy Hughes who coined the phrase, information is power. But disinformation, misinformation, lack of full information also has negative consequences. So the challenge for all of us should not be getting myself so upset. So I was misinforming. Now hold on, let me hear what they had to say. Hold on, let me go back and examine what I said. Oh, you know what? I wasn't fully clear. I didn't fully explain. Because what we have to recognize is there's no assumption that a brother or a sister listening will come back and listen to the clarification. There's no assumption that they will come back and hear the correction of the error. Our responsibility is to get it right. And I'm going to close with this. A month before she died, they fed it, Dr. Maya Angelou, at the National Portrait Gallery. We covered it at the Smithsonian Museum of African Art. They threw a birthday party. Janetta V. Cole threw a birthday party. We were all there, and Valerie Simpson sang, and Ambassador Andrew Young spoke, and I went to go interview Dr. Angelou. And I said something to her. I said, you know, my brother's a teacher. Two of my sister's teachers. A sister was a teacher's aide. I'm the only one in my family who's never taught. And she said, no, you teach. She said, I watch you. You teach when you're on television. And it blew me away. I'll find that clip. We're going to play it. But ever since then, I've been even more vigilant in what I had to say and how I said it and explain it to our people. I love when Joe Madison said, put it where the ghost can get it. Mark Thompson's show is called Make It Plain. Our job is to make this thing so plain and so clear, so crystal clear, that our people understand what's at stake. And there's no room, whether we are high and big or low and small, that it is not our primary mission and objective is to be truthful, clear, concise, and unapologetic about facts. And that is something that I will never, ever apologize for, because our people should trust the voices that are coming into their cars, their living rooms, their homes, their offices every day and every night. And that will always be the mission of Roland Martin Unfiltered and Black Star Network and me personally. And y'all already know what my motto is as a journalist my entire career. If you do good, I'm going to talk about you. If you do bad, I'm going to talk about you. At the end of the day, I'm going to talk about you. It ain't about friends, it's about facts. Because our people deserve credible, high quality, factual mediums. And that's all I got to say on this. Real quick, panel, you're there. Your perspective again on why. And matter of fact, I'm going to start with you because you're a professor. You teach. What comes out of your mouth, your students listen to. And you have to be very mindful of the information that you are providing to them, because if you misquote something that's factual, they can come back and say, hold up, Doc, that ain't right. And I've been there. I got into several arguments with professors over some stuff that wasn't factually correct.
And you know what you do as a professor? You say, I got it wrong and I apologize, right? I will be better, because we're not superhuman. We get things wrong sometimes. But I think that's the point. When you're wrong, you have to admit you're wrong. I say this to my students all the time. There is no failure in being wrong. In fact, as a social scientist, we start from the premise that we could always be wrong. What we are working with is what the best information we have right now. And you can't say any more than the data will tell you, or the historical record will tell you. You can't read any more into it than that. And your only obligation is to the truth, not your own ideas, not your ego, not what other people might think. you have to have some fidelity to the truth. So I tell people that, my students, that all the time, if nothing else. When you get it wrong, you have to say, I got it wrong. Sometimes you have the best hunch of your life and a non-finding is what you get. But that's still a finding because it's inching us closer to the truth. And so I think as a professional person, professors are not very different from journalists, except we have smaller platforms. But to the point you made earlier, our job is to ferret out the truth and let the chips fall where they may. And many times that means we thought it was going to go left and it went right. And that is also okay, because what we want to know is how close are we getting to some new breakthrough, to some new theory, to some new idea, to something novel that we didn't know before, to providing a little more context, as you said, chipping away at something. That's what we're doing. We're trying to eat the elephant little by little each and every time we do something, we publish something, we put an opinion out there. So our first and only obligation is to the truth, no more, no less.
Ome Congo, there's a reason why in our Black Star Network studios, y'all give me a shot, there's a portrait of the great crusading journalist Ida B. Wells Barnett. And you see the quote there. That is her famous quote. The way to right wrongs is to turn the light of truth upon them.
And Charlamagne has, demonstrated that time and time again. There's not a real interest in the truth. There's an interest in building the audience and building the following. I mean, he's sitting there proudly talking in the clip about, I don't know who that Niambi Carter is. I don't know who that Dr. Carr is. I don't know who that Rebecca Carruthers is. Get to know them. Understand the scholarship. Understand the leadership. And when you hear what he's saying, it just showed a level of immaturity that exists within him to just resort to name calling, almost turning into like a hip hop type of beef when the debate was about real knowledge and real information and real fact.
I just want, and again, my whole deal is, to your point, if you don't know some those parts, that's fine. I just want, and again, if you nail it, you got it. If you don't, and you don't have it, come back and say, you know what? I went and got some more information. I don't care what that is. People don't realize I read stuff. I call people. I'm calling people, like, understanding. If I don't understand it, I'll call multiple people. But the point is, and I might not bring up something if I don't have it fully down. Mm-hmm. So I may hold it a day or two until I'm comfortable with my information. That's my whole point, because we have to respect the audience. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely.
That person who hears you.
No, absolutely. And he was even corrected by Mehdi Hassan, who pointed at him and said, you are a problem because of the way you spread your information, but he didn't have any type of smoke or words for him. And so we have to be very mindful. As I talk about this Breakfast Club audience, I always ask myself, how many voters are they bringing to the table? What are they doing to move the needle as it relates to Black empowerment? And maybe that's just not the interest at the end of the day. And as the sister said at the end of his segment, that's a takedown. That was childish. And we need grown-ups right now. We need grown-ups in this movement. We need grown-ups in this space. And we need grown-ups to really check their at the door. It was the same thing I see with Stephen A. Smith and some of his takedowns. And what you did tonight, Roland, was you talked about a commitment to the truth. And some people just have a commitment to their pocketbooks. And some people just have a commitment to growing their social media influence. And if that's where you're going to be, fine. But make sure that when you come into other spaces, you actually come with facts and you're willing to be corrected so that people can know that you have some integrity.
And here, if I get it wrong, if somebody correct me, boom, you correct. Tyler, like, you know what? I was in Birmingham, and a young sister came up to me, and she presented me with a blanket. And she had our show logos on it, had my picture on it. And she said, my mama homeschooled me. And she said, for the last 3 years, you were my history teacher. My mama made me watch your show every night. See, that's what I'm talking about. I don't know who that sister is. I was blown away by that. But her mama had her watching my show. And if she learned politics, if she learned about news from watching my show, I damn sure better get it right.
Absolutely. And I think we have to use our influence responsibly. I always say healthy debate within Black media is definitely necessary, but it has to be rooted in truth, accountability, and as we know here, love for Black people. And I think, both of you represent two powerful generations of Black thought leadership. And we need more spaces where more fearless reporting and more honest and, holding your feet to the fire conversations is being had, because calling out disinformation isn't just fact checking, it's protecting the lives. As you said earlier today on the show, this politics thing, this is life or death. And we have to be mindful of the information that we give out. Every word we speak, every post we share, every conversation that we carry, it carries weight because someone is always listening to us. And I know a lot of people always say, I don't got the biggest voice or the biggest platform, but even if it's your family, your nieces and nephews and your coworkers, the folks you walk past on the street, you are influencing somebody. And so in a world where misinformation is all over the place, we have a duty to be good stewards of the truth.
Yeah, I just want people to understand misinformation does not mean that disinformation is when you're being deliberate. Misinformation means you're misinformed. You may have half of the story, you may repeat it, but you left the other half out. So I think people get all sensitive about the idea of misinformation. That's why my whole point is very simple. No one will ever throw out misinformation or disinformation when you speak complete truth. And not Kellyanne Conway's alternative facts. Facts are not alternative.
Right.
It's either factual or it's not. It's either truthful or it's not. And that has to be the simple and basic standard.